Skype. So you were just having to do some person his perspective about the scenery, like where you film it.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome today at Tolkien Society. This is our December 2013 meeting. We are meeting for the first time at the Rocket Bakery in North Spokane on Hastings near Meade High School, and trying out facilities as we continue our quest for the right facilities for our meetings. So far they're off to a good start here. And we actually have some great attendance today, and I'm still having little technical issues. Google has once again changed their Hangouts and YouTube and Google Plus technology again. So I'm trying to bring it all together. But we have a pretty good showing here. We actually have, including myself, 7 people here, and we're hoping to have those of you online join us online as I get everything going. I'm going to have another device on here, and we'll have multiple camera angles. But let me just go ahead and start here and have everybody say hello.
Hi, I'm Brian Huseland, and I'm part of Tolkien Society here with Hawke, and one of the gang along with everybody else. Good to see you.
Pass that around.
Oh, and did you mention where we are at the venue? Rocket Bakery.
I'm Richard Baldwin. I've been coming somewhat regularly. It's not my first time. I rather enjoy the conversation. So.
My name is Jacob Jones, and this will be my first time joining on the Tolkien group.
Well, you were at Tolkien Road.
Yeah. This one.
Yeah, the first monthly meeting.
I'm Greg Robinson. I come here very, very regularly.
I remember one of the time.
I'm Chris Cooperstein. I am the real bald one. Sorry, Richard.
You're saying a pseudo.
No.
I'm Alice Houston. This is my first time, and Brian is my dad.
And welcome to those of you who can tune in online, either while it's live right now, here it's at 3:30 Pacific time, only a half hour late to start.
But in Hawaii, we're early.
That's right. Normally we start earlier, but because people want to be able to see the new Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug movie, we shifted the time a little bit so that people could discuss that. So Drake, Alice, and Brian have recently seen the movie. Drake saw it yesterday, and Brian and Alice saw it just earlier today.
And
They're
Chris.
fresh from it. Oh, Chris did too. Okay, great.
The 11:40 showing.
The 11:40 showing, great. So they'll have feedback. I have not seen it, but I don't mind the spoilers for a Peter Jackson movie. He changes things so much. Oh well. Someday I have a dream of a BBC-style series that actually follows the books and
with the colored hoods
in perpetuity. What's that?
With the colored hoods.
Colored hoods with the riddles and the songs and as true as possible. Not as big a budget, like BBC-style budget. But good enough, and really work on the story.
The Hobbit musical.
And follow but follow the books. Whether it's the Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, Silmarillion, someday, some community-driven, internet-based project. It's a dream I have. I have a dream someday.
I think you should stand at the Washington Monument.
Yeah.
You might be able to edit that in.
The problem is that he looks too much like Peter Jackson.
Who does?
Hawke
I do. Oh, because of the hairiness.
Yes.
He's closer to a Hobbit size. I'm closer to Numenorian.
Yeah, you're like more like Michael Persman, who did a great job.
He was so good.
He did a great job as the wonderful skin changer, Beorn.
Oh, okay.
Beorn.
Cool.
Anyway, sorry.
So give us. I'm going to leave this kind of here. Well, I try to get the other camera on.
Great.
So we have a better.
Do we have the notes for last meeting?
I tried to print them. That's why I'm behind because I still have 15 minutes.
Or you
So
can
I
fill
have
out
them in
email
soft
if you
copy.
want.
Yeah, I can give you a screen.
I've got them in my email.
Great. So I'll pull that up. And so I'm just going to leave this here while I try to get this other one up and running.
So we can mention, can talk about the movie, and then also I did put in there a couple of the letters that if we get time for, we can
We'll
usually do that
definitely.
for our Tolkien Society meetings. We've been going through the letters of Tolkien, and we're on like letter 72, 73. Thank you. Out of 290. So we've got our work, laid off for us. Job security for our our meetings anyway, whatever. So we've got some good fodder. So, okay, so let's just start off. And Jacob, have you seen the movie yet?
I have not. I was going to watch it last night, but it's so crowded.
I know, it's just kind of puts you off.
I just figured I'd wait a couple days.
You don't like crowds.
And I don't mind spoilers, it's fine.
Oh, I was going to ask, does
Okay,
anybody
yeah.
here mind?
I haven't seen the other.
Okay, so that's, that's.
Spoiler alert, spoiler alert.
That's right. At this
watching
point,
if you
stop
don't want to
watching
hear
if you don't want to hear. That's right.
Are you doing some faux signing?
Yeah. Oh, don't start with that. Did you see the YouTube clip about the little child?
Yeah, afterwards, yeah.
Nice.
Well, did you see that Jimmy Kimmel, they had somebody try to translate what the guy was kind of saying, even though it was gibberish. But he's like, smoking, box, ball, person, people, it just made no sense. It was just, he was trying to make it.
Okay, there's a
Anyway.
connection.
Isn't that the way people feel about Obama sometimes?
It's,
That was
let's
Mandela. Wasn't it Mandela's funeral, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's South Africa, which
Yes.
is where Tolkien was born.
Bloemfontein. Yes,
Circle.
you tied it back together. Well done.
Thank you. So,
I thought he was born in Britain.
no, he was
Nope,
born in South
Bloemfontein,
Africa.
South
Orange
Africa.
Free State.
And when he was about a couple years old,
Yeah.
he moved back.
And then his father died shortly thereafter.
That's right.
He was a banker manager.
Mm-hmm.
And then his mother died a few years after that.
So let's pull out the. Oh, you got it actually. Let's do this. There we go. Okay, just a moment. I want to be able to show the Hobbit. I just wanted to show the books there. So well, that's good. As long as it doesn't fall forward. Maybe if you just a little bit. You
Go
counter
back.
over there. It's good.
There you go.
There we
There we
go.
go.
All right.
Excellent. So
Was in his sleep.
all the way from my really old and retro
Backwards.
copy
The authorized.
Mm.
I really
Yes.
like the
to the nice new one.
Well, there's annotated.
Yes,
I
we
like
have them.
really.
Yeah, that's on
This is
dramatized.
CD drama.
Is this BBC?
Actually, I think it's actually Americanized.
Is
I
American?
don't think it's.
Because as
I
Rich
forget.
pointed out last time, we speak American. not English. It was rather fun watching that Smial. We had a good time.
Yeah,
All right.
I forget.
Back on track, hey? So,
Was Chris using his cat on or
I have no idea. But let's go ahead and have a go around. And well, I want to let everybody who has seen the movie have a chance to speak. I'm going to start with the young people. But I did take.
notes.
I actually had 7 sticky notes that I took, mostly plot. I was looking at in order to remind myself what happened. So I was furiously scribbling down until I got to only one left, and I realized I was only half an hour into the movie, and I was in deep trouble.
Did you stick them on your children to keep track?
No, I had them inside my book. So on my last one, I'm like just writing down plot. There were many turns, and so I had to keep track of them.
And yet Dad did not realize there was the backs.
I could have done on the backs, but then it's kind of annoying. So, Drake, do you want to start out just telling kind of your thoughts, or no?
Let's
Okay.
be camera shy.
Should we start off with just asking if anybody wants to mention? So,
Well, yeah, I thought it was a
Yeah.
pretty good movie.
really, Richard. How did it do as far as just aside from the story? Let's just talk about it as like you walk into the movie theater and see it, special effects, general cinematography. What would you say?
Is that your concept of a good dragon?
That's a really good point.
Mhm.
So, okay, yes, in a sense, right? That you
Well, how many limbs?
It had
Well,
4.
had 4. I mean,
Plus
it's
wings?
Well,
yeah.
yeah, plus one,
Technically,
then
that's
6. Technically.
but what you've got is you've got a fairly Western style dragon, pretty well done, nice special effects, especially when it gets coated by golden.
Gold.
It's gold. It's molten gold.
They tried to-
But
Yes.
but there was one. So I think as far as the dragon and depiction, I mean that's pretty difficult. I don't know how many CGI dragons. I've seen plenty of movies in the past. There were science fiction or fantasy movies that had dragons in them, and they were all done pre-CGI, as far as I know. I've never seen the movie.
Was CGI.
Was Grendel depicted as a dragon?
Beowulf's son with the witch was a full dragon. He was a gold dragon. And he was a really good looking dragon.
Really? I did not realize that they depicted him as a dragon.
Yes.
Huh. That's
So-
an interesting interpretation.
And considering that someone had hand translating Beowulf, I thought it was relevant.
Yes, that's true. I thought one thing only I have to pick with the whole, okay, let's render a dragon, right? And that is that totally aside from the plot and comparing it to the book, Bilbo Smaug looked him in the eyes. And all the legends and all the stories, as far as I know,
Yeah, you'll be ensnared.
You're toast. You look a dragon in the eyes.
Nagathon?
Including in Tolkien's own mythology.
Right, and Silmarillion, that happens. That's how the whole erased mind and everything.
So does that change anything? The fact that he's supposed to be invisible and Smaug would just be.
Well, that's another thing too.
Well, that's yes.
He's supposed to be invisible. The Smaug would have actual eye contact because he's
It
just
should be a
looking
protection
in that
against
area.
dragons.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but in the story, aren't they talking about Bilbo deliberately avoiding the gaze?
No, he doesn't even. They don't even really.
I mean, in the book.
Well, we have annotated Hobbit and we have the history of the Hobbit.
That's
I
a good
read it
question,
not too long
Jacob.
ago.
It's a good question. I mean, do you remember?
All he ever does is he has the conversation.
But he has the
from
ring on the
tunnel.
whole
He's
time.
invisible
From
the whole
tunnel,
time.
he's
And just the ring on the whole
invisible.
time, exactly.
He says, "I smell you, I hear you," and they talk.
Well, he did go in a little bit because
Yes.
remember he came back with
Yeah.
the little.
He did, but
thing.
then when he was doing that, he wasn't having any dialogue or even noticing that Smaug was there.
I think there's
It's
one
all
point
going on.
before he leaves up the tunnel entrance. He takes off the ring, shows the cup,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I think right at the
Yeah.
end. That's where he gets
Just,
smoked a little.
but of course, enough of it's not enough,
Okay.
and that's why.
Something a dragon such
And doesn't he say, like, I'm lucky he didn't just roast the tunnel or something
He
like
did
that?
roast
Well, he did try to.
Well, afterwards.
Okay, yeah.
But
Bilbo managed to get out just before the
That's right.
fireball.
But that is one thing I thought. Oh, that's interesting. It's like, well, usually if you look at a dragon in the eyes, you go under its spell. You know, you're going to be pretty much in its
Well,
hands.
No,
you know.
what I was curious about, not seeing the movie but remembering this part, doesn't it take a significant journey down that tunnel from where the mountain exit is, where the entrance is that they find, from when it goes all the way to it's like it wasn't like a 4 hours, it's a really good distance.
Some time transpired. He had a lot of time to think
Yeah,
to himself.
so I thought
Really go, "Oh, this is not the best idea.
A good segue from that, actually, but I want to, pitch in anytime. But is talking about that and just saying, okay, so once we start comparing the book to the movie, to this part of the book, what does Jackson keep the same kind of length, and what does he kind of foreshorten? I notice that a lot, just because sometimes you have to in a movie, but certain things being much quicker. And so one of those would be the journey down the tunnel. Definitely is not because remember in the book, it actually says Tolkien. I think there's this point where he says, doesn't he, that Bilbo this was where his greatest temptation or his greatest trial was in the tunnel, and it was where he was struggling about whether to go forward or to go back. So as far as the character,
it was an internal dialogue.
It was, and
he was having.
It wasn't the struggle more of whether he was going to go forward and go through with it, or go forward pretending to go through it.
I don't know, but I thought it had to do with the fact that he thought, you know what, at this point, I'm not playing this adventure.
The dwarves didn't follow him into
No, they
so
did
he had
No, they
the
didn't.
option of going around.
Yeah,
the
he could have
corner.
faked it.
Pretending he had gone down. Yeah, so he has
Except
this
the
little
fact that
conversation.
they told him to bring something back. He
Yes.
couldn't fake that.
Yeah, but he's still, the point is, he still goes through a temptation that for Tolkien was pretty significant to who Bilbo was, and that was, and after all, the movie is still called The Hobbit, and who is The Hobbit? It's Bilbo. So if you're going to keep that the name of your movie, I think that's one of the questions you have to raise is like, just, so how does Bilbo grow? I think, by and large, Bilbo and his character is fairly well done. I mean, but that whole shortness thing, you see that many, many times in the movie, I thought. Like, whoa, you go from, like, Mirkwood. Wow. they venture in, it's obviously... Playing with your mind.
One of the things that I was curious about is how the second one would probably pick up right where the first one left off. My problem was that when they were attacked, they were rescued by the eagles and flown off, and you see the rocks fire.
Yeah.
They're supposed to have a good dialogue. They're supposed to have a discussion with the eagles before they're flown further on. Before they fly them in like 2 days, 3 days, drop them on the edge of the woods.
Yeah.
And I was curious how they were going to address that part.
So they totally skipped it.
They totally skipped it.
I don't think they developed anything at all with the Eagles, which was in a great direction to go.
Peter Jackson taking the Eagles down.
Dragons.
Eagle dragon.
Oh, please.
Or a giraffe.
A giraffe.
That's right.
What about a jackalope?
Is that in his is that in Tolkien's
Mr.
Random.
Bliss.
Mr. Bliss?
And I was also curious if they had any more with Radagast in the second one.
Okay, they did,
They
but
did.
wait for a second because
sorry.
you're bringing up the Eagles thing, so I think it's kind of a Deus.
Can we, let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
We're going over.
How does the movie start out?
Beginning.
Okay.
All right.
The movie starts out in Bree.
Should we start in the middle and work our way to the end?
So the opening scene is Bree. It's a flashback.
Peter Jackson is eating a carrot.
Yes, he makes a cameo.
He does.
Peter Jackson eating a carrot.
Yeah.
He's a random villager eating a carrot. Carrot.
Carrot.
The character.
Is that a carrot with wheels on it?
That was what I mean.
I just don't care at all.
Okay, guys, please let's
Self-punishment.
before we lose our
It's getting pungent in here.
So Bree, Thorin comes in, sits down at Prince's pony. Some
Shifty.
unsavory characters start menacing, looking at him, and they stand up to kind of start walking towards him. He grips his sword, and just then Gandalf sits down and greets them, and this is a chance meeting. And they both agree that this is no chance meeting because, in fact, he has come to ask Thorin about the.
Oh, that's kind of, it's flipping back and forth.
That's okay.
All right, go ahead.
So he's I'll just stare. So I've got it down. I know that they realized that as a discussion that.
So this is a flashback?
This is a
flashback.
This would be like
Because this is back
Yeah.
before they meet up
a
with
little bit
themselves.
before they go to
Meet up with
themselves.
themselves. Yeah.
Yes, because actually, as I think Tolkien mentions in the Appendices, is it?
Mhm.
Or was it Unfinished Tales?
Both.
I think the Appendices mentions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of them Unfinished Tales, but they were on their way back. Yep, it would be on their way back from or towards the mountain. They stopped by there. Anyway, he was gathering his guys together, and in the movie, what he does is he just has this, just shows how they had this meeting, and Gandalf says, you should go and take back them out for your people, and gather all the dwarves, all the 7 houses of the dwarves to help you, because, that's the only way you're going to do it. And then Thorin is not sure about that, because he doesn't have the Arcane Stone, and that's where Gandalf says, I will come and help you.
Well, actually, yes.
Right. And that's the segue to 12 months later, so a year later, is when Bilbo is with the company of Thorin, and they just had escaped from Azog, and they have been put down by the Eagles in Carol. They were down in the mountains now. Kind of not really right? They were just kind of in the mountains. And so you see Azog, this where the orc, and then you also see Beorn in his form as a huge bear.
They did very well.
So then there's the Beorn sequence where they go to his house and all that.
And I was curious how if they were even going to talk about that part of that.
So one of the things that's positive about the movie, I would say, is that they deal with Beorn, whereas like other attempts, have skits in it. Yeah, they edit it out. I mean, it's an easy one to edit, you just go north of it.
Kind of like,
I really want to see it.
But it was really good.
After the first person movie.
This works more. It's strength and gentleness at the same time, which is what Tolkien was trying to picture, was that character. And he said Beorn, Gandalf described Beorn as neither friend nor foe. Do you think that's true to the story? That Beorn is not a friend or a foe? It's kind of...
Well, he's for the woods.
Right.
He's for his animals. He's for his area. He doesn't want. Yeah,
kind of like that.
Yeah, and that was in the story. That's what I call it. He'll help you, but you understand it's for my animals, for my. He'll help you because you understand.
Which is why it's such a huge surprise in the book. Which is why it's such a huge end of the Battle of Five Armies.
Interesting.
You know, in
Yeah.
the book he does.
Yeah.
Because you don't expect him. He's not necessarily allied himself, even though he's good. He's kind of hands-on.
I keep remembering the Rankin Bass version.
Yeah. Actually, it's Rankin Bass, but it's
It's
getting there.
The Hobbits are supposed to be extraordinary, but
Resilient.
the ring, so they should, in some ways,
Not as fast.
shouldn't have any problems with it.
Right.
You can't imagine the skis in the wall are spears.
Sorry, go ahead.
At least in the movie, he was thrown out to Gandalf, but ring stopped.
Yeah.
That's part of Peter Jackson.
It's talking about a lot.
Yeah.
It's talking about a
Oh,
lot.
yeah, that was what the movie.
I know, I'm trying to override it. Dropping connection.
Good point, Drake. And then Bilbo makes a lie. Did you catch that? Those of you who saw the movie. So Bilbo.
In the book, I remember
Yes.
Bilbo hedging on what had happened to get
How
him
did he
past
get
the
past the
goblins.
Goblin Gate?
But he wasn't really necessarily attempting, he was just trying to hear the Lord's mouth, and he actually was.
Yeah.
But I think that's more from his nature for that than it actually.
Well, he develops that, doesn't he? In this movie.
Well,
What
her is lie. So describe it to people who haven't seen it. So what would be the conversation?
He has a conversation with Gandalf, and he says, I found something in the Goblin house. And he says, my courage. But he didn't have the courage to tell Gandalf about the ring.
It's like, I found something.
After a very long pause.
What did you find?
In the book, Tolkien was kind of treating it like, he's a hobbit, he finds the ring, it's magic ring, and he doesn't further past it from that. Whereas, for Gandalf, in the Lord of the Rings, it's developed, it was a case of Tolkien realizing, magic rings aren't that common.
This is an interpretation of the Hobbit through the lens of the Lord of the Rings.
I think it was faithful. I think it was believable. You could believe that he was starting to be tempted to not tell Gandalf. Right.
Oh, we all know. Christopher Tolkien.
Now I'm curious, I'm not going to this particular part, but at the end of the first half portion,
The first movie did it?
yeah, right when he comes out and Gandalf gives him that very curious look, and you see him just kind of put his hand in his pocket that the ring is in. Gandalf, as you see that he's had that spark or
Yes.
that inkling of
He knows.
what is he has something, but I don't remember if it was exactly the same in the book though. I don't remember.
It's not. Although
But
there's
I know I'm digressing, but I just was trying to.
that's a good point actually. We could look at
In
that.
some ways, Peter Jackson is trying to use the Hobbit to foreshadow the events of the Lord of the Rings for something he later on used them in, in the Hobbit first, then the Lord of the Rings. So they're foreshadowing, their trouble.
I have to say that this wonderful spot, even though Rankin Bass was, a bad animation job, there's some really good moments. And there's this one part where, let me finish this thing. So Gandalf actually, when Bilbo reveals himself that he did escape from the Goblin Town, and there he is, he kind of comes out from the tree. He says, "Yes, I escaped. I slipped past them." And Gandalf says in the Rankin Bass movie, he says, "Yes, your story has the ring of truth."
Yeah.
Yes, it rings true.
It rings true. And I thought, yep, you know what's going on. I thought that was a nice interpretation there.
Yeah, but when Tolkien was writing The Hobbit, it hadn't crystallized as much as it
There were several versions, weren't there, on that very, very thing. So I don't think it really deals with it, Jacob.
Well,
Okay.
he saw the ring more as good or neutral, and in the Lord of the Rings it became a thing of evil.
Now, I'm curious, in the book, I know they didn't address it in the movie, but when he loses his buttons, sliding through, I seem to remember the goblins looking at these buttons going, curious, look what we found, as he's sliding out,
Yeah.
Well, this is the closest that Tolkien gets to it seems. Because he says, "What did I tell you?" said Gandalf, laughing. "Mr. Baggins has more about him than you can guess." He gave Bilbo a queer look from under his bushy eyebrows as he said this, and the Hobbit wondered if he guessed at the part of his tale that he had left out. So,
Bilbo did it.
Okay.
yes. Yeah, it's very clear that Bilbo kind of
Now, is this-
spins this version of...
Now, is this the seed in the movie, which we see? Is that what is taken a little farther in the second half?
Yeah.
To start discussing. So that one builds from on top of that.
Very much so. He's not told anyone else about the ring.
And he doesn't tell it in the books. He doesn't tell anyone about it. Doesn't
When does he?
I don't think I think.
When he talks.
Yeah, I think when he
60 years
Yeah.
later.
Yeah, I think that's the only time he ever discusses it. Because even then, it's somewhat of a surprise. Hey, this is this great ring of power.
Precious.
Yeah.
Didn't that just show up in the Lord of the Rings? Right. I think in the Hobbit it was just a magic ring, wasn't it?
It wasn't the ring in the Hobbit.
Well, it wasn't. It was just a magic
It was
ring.
a magic ring.
It
But
was-
remember, the
it
Hobbit
was
is seeing
neutral.
the world of Middle-earth through a child's eyes.
Exactly.
Yes.
But it was neutral. It wasn't.
Was
It
it?
wasn't.
The
It wasn't.
viewer
It's a
was
magic
sought
ring.
after.
It has to be some.
Right.
Some.
It wasn't sought
Major
after
players.
as the
No.
same. It's
No.
different. It's
Right.
still, in a sense, you could say I agree that it's somewhat neutral, but I would also, on the other hand, it's not. Its awareness has not been.
And that's where this movie diverges from the book.
Yeah.
The big
That's kind of like.
the big divergence is that Peter Jackson is looking at this book through the lens of the Lord of the Rings.
Well, he's using hindsight.
And viewing, Gandalf is figuring stuff out with Radagast and some other things.
I'm curious. I mean, I don't know where they got all of the Radagast in the movie.
From the Lord.
Did the
He's
sled
in
team
the
of rabbits
Hastings
bother anyone
Road,
else?
yeah.
No. Well, they don't think about them a little bit.
I think on their own they wouldn't have been so bad, I mean, by themselves.
After thinking about it, I don't like the characterization of Radagast.
No. Well, I think there'd be other people who would agree with you.
I'm making him too much of an idiot.
Yeah. I mean, he has his moments.
Or a stoner.
He has his moments.
appetite for mushrooms. Ah, good point. Okay, so before we, no, just thinking here.
Next to spiders.
So they get into Mirkwood, and Gandalf says, "No matter what happens, don't leave the path." and then there's the effect of the forest on them. I thought they did a very good job depicting.
I thought that was a good foreshortening. Being able to show the confusion without going into all the details.
So you could, in a sense, feel like they'd been wandering the forest for hours. But they didn't.
That as being a
But it certainly wasn't days.
It was
Very long.
yeah, because in the book it's weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how are you going to
That's why
show
they're
that?
starving.
Right. But you don't even see them light a fire. They never even really camp.
Well, but I don't know if they ever.
They don't
other than
cross
the
a
elves,
fire. They don't
yeah.
cross a river.
Really?
No.
Yeah, no river,
You have
no
a
fire.
10-minute. I think it's about a 10-minute hallucinating kind of sequence where, as they go deeper into the forest, they're feeling more of its effects upon them. They're trying to.
They don't show much
path.
sleep cycles or anything.
No. They're trying to stay to the path because it's obviously been overgrown, right?
Yeah.
And the green with the grape has become Mirkwood, but then they have this part where then they end up. Let's see, how did it go into the spiders?
Well, Bilbo goes up.
Bilbo goes up the tree. Right. Oh, he plucked it.
Yeah.
That's right. That was interesting because it kind of is obviously like the real spider has
Yeah.
can feel the vibrations on webs.
Bilbo reaches over and is like, "Ooh, what's this?" and
Boing.
tweaks the thing, and he goes, and he just like clicks several times. He's like, interesting.
Yeah, it does the second time.
Well, the first time, monsters appeared, so I must say.
There you go. Right.
That was Jim Seaman, Chris Seaman's wife.
Oh,
So
Professor
I'm having
Persimmon.
trouble recalling that from the book. Is that part in the book where he issues the spider in the webs and Murphy?
What's that?
We're talking about the spiders now.
Right?
Spiders.
The spiders do capture them and everything. But Bilbo's the hero. He's the one who raised them.
I'm guessing in the
No
book,
elves.
It doesn't really say how many.
There are a bunch.
I'm guessing somewhere between 20 to 50 spiders.
Yeah, but they were a lot smaller than Sherlock.
As I recall, there was a large population of spiders.
Yes.
They were.
Multiple populations.
And it's really important to make mention at this point too that in Tolkien's story, this had been happening for like hundreds of years.
Slowly.
Mirkwood had become Mirkwood before
Must be green with the gray.
before Bilbo and the dwarves had come in.
Thranduil moved for that very purpose.
Yeah,
Or-
Thranduil actually moved north from where had he been down farther south?
down, yeah, in the near the middle of Mirkwood rather than the
To
top.
everybody but the elves, it was Mirkwood because it happened before their lifetime.
Yes.
Only the
Yes.
elves before.
As
Yeah,
Greenwood.
exactly.
And so in the movie, in order to kind of make it
I
seem like
apologize
there's
for the
change and
technical
it's
issues.
all getting worse, they actually make it sound like it's
No.
only recently happened.
And they talk about
Yeah.
Well, they had to recycle all the rooms for the dwarves.
But they still stuck to the point that the reason why the darkness was there is because of Dol Guldur and the presence of Sauron, which was
As the
only
necromancer.
hinted at. Yeah, right.
I don't think Peter Jackson felt comfortable with going too far outside because he was taking enough flack as it was.
So yeah. What was the quote he made this the last couple? Which is really important with Tolkien, that even though things are really dark, there is this shining, like this small hope.
We're almost there. Have you ever watched those nature documentaries where they travel through the forest, then they go up with a canopy?
Mm-hmm.
It's a completely different environment.
It is.
Like, you don't need magic to get that.
Full of spiders.
And then he goes up and he sees the sun and says, "Oh, hey guys, it's this way. I see the mountain," and they're up there.
Now, references to the Silmarillion, I'm amazed they had several. I mean, I think these spiders are some spawn of Ungoliant. So
Yeah.
that goes back to Silmarillion, the ultimate Shelob, the ultimate spider. He's
And
the
yeah, I'm sure they
baddest.
could get away with it because I'm sure there's at least one mention of Ungoliant in the appendices.
I hope so. Yeah, right. Okay, so they're caught by the spiders, but Bilbo is also tangled up in webs. Was that the way it was in the book? Do you remember?
I don't recall Bilbo ever getting
No,
caught.
in the book he comes across them.
They
like
came
that.
after him, and,
Yeah.
and he fought a couple at first.
But I thought that he had put on the ring,
closer.
and that the dwarves got further away from him because they were chasing the elf fight thing, which was okay that they took that part out because that was something that was really random in the Hobbit.
That was one of the
With the elf party, flash and disappear, flash and disappear.
Yes.
It was totally appropriate for fairy, but
Yes, but
a little odd for Sylvan.
So then they're all caught, but so Bilbo wakes up and he is able to cut out of his web, stab a spider. So there's some nice, and he puts on his ring and is able to start.
stand.
And he throws a rock, draws all the spiders away from the dwarves, cuts the dwarves free.
There is a touch that I kind of like that Peter Jackson doing. In
What's that?
The Lord of the Rings, when Frodo puts on the ring, being invisible is too difficult because of the way the environment is. Whereas in the Hobbit, it's pronouncedly less.
But I think that has to do with the fact that Sauron has
Well, yeah,
more
that's-
power and
Yeah.
and it's raw.
And I like that attention to detail.
That's the point. It gets steadily worse as Sauron gets
It
stronger.
also
Yeah.
explains why Frodo doesn't put on the ring as much.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
just whenever he seems to,
Whereas Bilbo,
Yeah, why didn't it weigh on Bilbo the way it weighed on Frodo?
Yeah. I like how they use the same wispy thing so you can tell that he's invisible, the same as Lord of the Rings.
Right. They definitely. I mean, Martin Freeman is a very good actor.
When I saw the Lord of the Rings, and Frodo put on the ring of the throne of whatever, what is it, the Arax?
Oh, you're talking about the seat of where he sees.
Yeah.
I'm on
How could Bilbo use
Law.
that?
law.
How
No,
was
it's
Bilbo able to punch in that environment?
Yeah.
I'm on him. I'm on
No, it's
Sewell's.
not Eminem.
I'm on Sewell's by the
Oh,
top.
that's
I'm on
right.
Hannah's.
So, but then he loses the ring. This is confusing to me. In the movie, he loses the ring off his finger
Yeah.
partway through the spider fight.
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He takes it off. He's like,
Does
I
he
think
does
it's
he call them out after cops and stuff?
No, he doesn't.
Oh,
They dropped it.
Oh,
Yeah.
But at
why?
least the spider's so tough. That was like, ooh.
Yeah, he riddles with Smaug, but he doesn't do any riddling or singing with the spiders.
No.
It's mostly slash and
Oh, he
stab.
does riddle with Smaug?
A little
A
bit.
little bit.
Okay.
He flatters him.
Okay, eensy beensy. He does this whole thing about who am I? He kind of
Peter Jackson seems to be doing the forces of evil was more, the ones that are in animal form is more animalistic.
right.
Except for the dragon, he can't really. I think if the dragon had been slightly depicted as animalistic, he would have cut the speech and whatnot. But the story kind of went with him.
Lazy Lob and Crazy Cob are weaving webs to find me. I am far more sweet than other meat, but still they cannot find me. Here am I, naughty little fly. You are fat and lazy. You cannot trap me, though you try. In your cobwebs crazy. And both Lob and Cob are words for spider. Lob comes from Old English lapa, or laba, Middle English, and then cob is rare as a separate word and probably taken from cobweb. Yeah, and the Princess and the Goblin, Jersey Family uses cob as a
When
word
you're
for
saying
goblin.
that, you're saying spiderweb.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So then the elves show up while they're fighting the spiders in the middle of the spider fight, and the elves kill off the spiders. So it's not Bilbo luring the spiders away, because that's in the book. It's Bilbo that basically leads the dwarves on further, and then he kind of faints back and puts on his ring, fights the spiders.
And that feels like what they did to Frodo. They wussified Frodo so much.
Yes, they did.
It sounds like the same to Bilbo. Bilbo had, this is where Frodo was a hero. Remember, near the end.
But it's
They're like,
so-
now, burglar, is it time for you to earn your pay? It's like, now is the time.
But you know,
After I've saved you and saved you and
saved
saved
you.
you.
Way more like, like Jackson changed the script, the story in order to make Bilbo more of a hero than he was in the first part.
Yeah.
But now in the second part, he wasn't as much. I thought.
Doesn't he? In the book, he's the one that comes to the rescue when they fight the giants or the ogres, wherever they are.
The trolls.
Trolls, thank you,
Yeah.
trolls.
Right?
And he's the one, but in
Yeah.
that one, he's like one of the first to get
Right,
caught.
exactly.
And he does like
He
does save the
confuses
day
them and then
ultimately.
Yeah.
Now I don't remember if Gandalf breaks a rock.
Yes.
Doesn't
Well, no, not in the book.
Not in the book.
That's what he just talks to them
He talks to them, and then the sun rises.
He stalls them until.
Yeah, Gandalf pretends to be the voice of the others and makes
Yeah,
them argue
Which
with
he
each
does
other.
in the movie, but breaks the rock to let the sun.
Actually, I just watched it last night. I
He
don't
didn't
know.
do any riddling in their voices.
No.
Yeah, he
no.
did.
All he
Okay,
does
yeah, I
is show
haven't
up
seen
and
it
go,
for a
Shazam!
Bilbo tries to stall them by
Bilbo
saying,
does.
"Oh, they've got parasites. You don't want
Right.
to eat them."
Right.
What? We don't want parasites. Shut up. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
That's so not.
I know. It's pop culture meets
Yes,
The Hobbit. And I think
totally.
we're gonna find some things that we like, and we're gonna find some things that we don't like, because I think that's the thing, is that every time each generation tries to take the story and retell it, they're gonna do some things really well, and then some things are gonna be like,
I think at this stage,
Justin
Peter
Bieber
Jackson
does
is
the
kind
Hobbit.
of giving up trying to please anybody.
like the George Lucas factor.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, it's like
Do
you're
whatever
taking
he
a
wants.
book that's, 60 plus years old, and you're trying to bring it to this generation.
Which is still accessible to this generation and still
Yes,
successful
I-
the way it's written.
I agree, and I agree, but when you're trying to make a movie out of a book that
Yeah.
only,
People are gonna come with expectations.
yeah.
They are.
Here's
And then-
my
Which is why
observation
Toriel is there.
about that is that it's not just the movie that is driving this. And this
Okay.
is might be where Hawke might have some things to say. There are too many video game scenes in this movie
Yeah, they
to
feel very video game
it
like.
is very video
I haven't seen the second
game-like.
one, but in the first one.
And so they're filming not for just one purpose, but they're filming for dual purpose.
Because they're gonna use
Yeah.
these also for video game merchandising.
And to just appeal to the
I never take that into
generation.
account, but I can see what you're talking about.
I believe it.
When I saw the Two Towers and it ended, there were two teenagers in front of me. They got up and said, "Well, that was
That was what?
that was long."
Well,
You know, they didn't.
they were long
They
movies.
were having trouble connecting with the story.
Well, yeah,
They weren't
Two
getting a
Towers.
sense of drama because
That being said, the Two Towers, most people experience that reading the books.
Yes, I was gonna say.
That's usually where most people drop the Lord of the Rings.
That's where I stopped reading in the middle of the book.
It's a lot of travel.
well, I made it all the way through.
Yes, but most people struggle,
I admit the Two
Including
Towers was pretty dry.
including Drake.
Because they're running.
It is the middle box.
It is.
Middle
But in the
Always
movie, I
so
mean, but in the
less.
movie, that's like Helm's Deep. I mean, there's lots of action.
Yeah,
It's just
no,
not
they-
much
they-
else.
And that was the thing that bugged me about the movie. There's tons of things about the way the movie's bugged me after reading all the books. But
Right.
it was like they're supposed to be battling for a great period of time. 3 days, 4 days, they're under siege. It's like, no,
It's an
trees show up in the
siege.
middle of the night and wipe them all out, basically.
This goes back to what Hawke said, I think, in that unless you're going to really commit to something like a miniseries or something where it's like, and really we don't have anything like that in movies. We don't have, you can have it for
You can't
TV.
accurately show.
And so if you're going to put that kind of money into special effects,
Oh,
you've
yeah.
got to have a return. You've got to have instant. The box office, you spend millions and then you make even more millions. But to do it right, I think you're right. I mean, if you're going to really show this as epic as, I don't know, like James Michener's Centennial or something like that, you need to have
Shogun?
like Shogun. You've got to like, you say, hey, you know what? If we were filming any other movie about, where this battle is so significant,
Yeah.
you would spend all the
There's another book series that just as you thought of it, as what Hawke said earlier brought to my mind. It's a book written by a guy named Terry Goodkind, and the book is called The Sword of Truth. And they broke one book into, I think it was on Sci-Fi Channel, 45 episodes.
Whoa.
I was having trouble watching it because they were making it a little different,
Mhm.
and I had just freshly read the book. I was like,
Yeah.
but let me see.
That being said, I've heard that Terry Goodkind is very wordy.
Yeah,
Long
but
So can I
I'm
ask
just
you-
saying though,
Yeah.
they took one book and they broke it into 1 hour episodes, and there's 45 of them. Now, if they did something like that, or maybe a few more episodes, that's how they would get the closest way to being true to the book.
Well, but we're not complaining so much about what they left out this time, like
Right.
they did in Lord of the Rings.
It's more about what they added.
It's the alterations and the additions. Some of the additions sound promising though, including the Dol Guldur stuff.
Yep.
It's promising. Now,
Totally.
you guys were traveling through the Mirkwood, ran into
Elves,
spiders.
elves come in.
Elves come in and rescue them.
Toriel is, this is her entrance.
All right, who's
And
Toriel?
Legolas.
Toriel
is a
is,
female elf.
yeah.
But that's
Legolas
just
is,
for Orlando Bloom.
Yeah.
Well, this is entering the romance triangle.
It is, but
It's-
not as badly
it's not-
done as
yeah.
I thought. I
It's
thought
not
it
that
would be really
bad.
cheesy.
It was really making it out more than it did.
They always
Yeah.
do on this.
So
Oh,
who's
yeah.
the dwarf involved?
Keely,
The dark-haired Huli,
Archer.
the dark-haired guy that doesn't
The
look
youngest
like
one without
Yeah,
beard.
yeah, the
The
youngest
youngest one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because obviously
Not the
beards
beard
are
that's dwarf.
He's young. He's
Yeah.
only like 70 or something.
Yeah.
Older.
So,
Okay, so-
Troudiel
yeah.
is the captain of the guard, and
Right.
she is a Sylvan elf, which makes a big distinction between her and Thranduil and Legolas.
Sindar.
They do mention
Because
that.
they're Sindar and she's
No.
Sylvan.
Legolas is
No.
No,
it's-
he was fostered by the Wood Elves, right?
So there's an important fact to bring in here, which is not a lot of people don't realize, is that the ruling family, the royal family,
Dynasty,
over the Elf Kingdom of the Woodland Realm, is actually a Sindarin group of elves that came from Valyrian. Am I right? I think
From
they came from Valyrian
Are
before.
they,
Yeah.
are they high elf or gray elf?
They
Grey elf.
Grey elf.
Yes,
Sindar's
Grey elf Sindarin.
but they're not of the Sylvan elves, because the Sylvan elves are to Larry.
Yeah, they're
Anyway.
part of the ones who did not. None of them ever went to.
We should
So
define
high
the
elf.
term. We should define the term. High elf is an elf that
Noldor.
went and saw two trees.
Yes.
A gray elf is an elf that made journeyed halfway there, saw the light of the mountains, but they never actually saw the trees themselves.
Yeah, or at least
The
as
Sylvan-
a whole.
As a whole.
In the group.
The Sylvan
dark
elves
elves.
never went on the journey.
Sylvan elves went on the journey, but they stayed in the north.
Yes.
Some.
And then Dark Elves were also not necessarily evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just
never saw the light. Yeah, they
Yeah.
were born in the
Never saw
earth
the
or
light.
whatever.
So the ruling family that is
You're actually different.
Sindarin.
Yep.
And so wood elf is a rather generic
Yeah,
term.
it
It
really is.
includes, yeah, it
More
Not an
includes,
ethnic
It's more
term.
of a
It's not
Spanish
ethnic.
reference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sylvian was Latin.
Yeah, that makes a lot of
Sylvan.
sense.
Yeah.
So then there's this conversation between Thranduil where he makes a comment to when they bring the dwarf back to the
So how was
caves.
Thranduil rendered?
Dude.
Very well. I thought, I don't know.
Well, yeah, we were joking yesterday about it's got to be better than the Rankin Bastard.
Yeah.
And we are Slavic with triangular. Not very funny.
I remember him having a list.
It was just bizarre.
Pretty much anything had to be better.
I was gonna say, that's a pretty low bar.
Yeah.
He was done very well, I thought, and actually there's this part where when they come in, he's interrogating Thorin. I thought that was a very well done piece.
Yes.
myself.
That was great.
Because
And the
he basically makes it.
interchange of firing back and forth
Yes.
between kings, pointing
Yes.
fingers about who dropped that ball.
So there is actually this deal. There's a deal that Thranduil offers, right? And the deal is, look, one king to another. So he even recognizes you are this. I will help you, but I want from your treasure. I desire these.
So that was
stones.
already being brewed,
Oh,
rather than
the
just obfuscating.
Yeah, he's like, I want
So,
my share.
so Thorin told him what
He
they were
gave him a
doing?
finger almost.
Yeah, he
He said-
says, dude, you dissed us before, so
He
now
said,
we're.
our people were suffering when we
Yeah.
fled the mountain, and you did nothing to help
Your
us.
word is.
Yeah.
But, no, when they
Exactly.
first got them, they told them where they were going rather than just being silent?
No.
Because that's how they got
Thranduil-
incarcerated.
There was
Yeah.
a scene
Used to say
of
it.
him wearing the ring, and the ring has the power to read dwarves in theory.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I don't know. They didn't really deal with that. They basically said, okay, so what are you doing here?
Yeah.
And then
That's
it's,
the line
You're-
from the trailer,
you're
the
going to
seeking
yeah.
to return to your homeland and slay the dragon.
He pretty much guesses.
Yeah.
You have no
Yes.
rights, I have the only right to
No, that's
No, that's the
Bard.
bard.
That's what
That's the
Bard.
bard.
Yeah. But that is in the trip.
That's the trailer bit.
But that's later on.
Okay, so he gives them the finger because they didn't
Yeah.
take care of
Yeah.
when they needed help, okay.
So then he gets out eventually through Bilbo stealing the keys, just like in the story.
But there's the interrogation of the orc,
Right. There's an interrogation of an orc.
which I think is a really interesting part.
I think it's important.
Yes, because I think I don't know. This
Which
is
is
all
interesting.
lots of speculations and interesting stuff.
Yeah,
on the
she reads a lot on the Wandering Down.
Um,
Is there a
Okay.
prevention of cruelty that works?
Well,
no,
they-
when they're fighting the
Oh, well,
so
this is after the orcs escaped, though, we're talking now.
no, this is before.
Yeah, the orc they captured was after.
Oh yeah, it was.
orcs.
Okay.
So we're getting
So
to
you
those
want to do
spells.
part? Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, so Thorin gets interrogated by the Thranduil. They don't have a deal. They're thrown in jail, and then Toriel, this female elf, she, you know, she is compassionate for the dwarves, especially for Keely, because he doesn't seem to have such an attitude.
Yeah.
And then they're talking,
Yeah.
but then she doesn't help them at all. It's Bill who gets the keys. That's the barrels without the tops on.
She is.
Yeah, what's
Stop
that?
it.
She.
Why are they not get hidden?
You know, I'm not sure. They still have the basic idea.
The reason why they are not in the barrels is because the orcs are consuming them.
Right.
And this is still this Azog theme. And so they have generated a new Universal Studios ride out of the barrels.
Absolutely. It's a pretty epic
It's
thing.
pretty intense.
In fact, I would say they
Oh.
spent longer on the river in the barrels than
This
going
is
to
why.
Northwood.
This is
Yeah,
why
right?
Yes.
the movies need to be done from a community basis.
Like,
Like Born of Hope and The Hunt for Golf.
I'm just
oligarchy.
giving
Yes, I
you
love
more
those.
food for thought.
But it's honestly, they spend more time in the barrels than they do in Mirkwood actually going through the woods.
Oh, but Dad, there is the part. She's
Those are pretty
Tariel.
nice shots though.
Tariel is compassionate for Keely because he's like, oh yeah, I promised my mother I would be home, and then she's like, oh,
Yeah.
you're.
And promises are pretty. I found that as a sub theme very interesting because Thranduil promised the orc he would let him go if he told him what they were going to do. And then when the orc started saying my master serves the one, and he's he's going to burn you all with
It's
fire.
very interesting.
And Thranduil gets ticked off and slices off his head, and Legos is like, "Why did you do that? You promised that you would set him free."
He said, I'm free to set from the body.
That is
Hooray!
On the other hand, I think Tolkien portrayed it that the elves felt that they never had to keep their word before. The only time that comes up is kind of the riddle game in the books.
I don't know. Elves kept they saw their oaths as fairly important, considering
Just-
Did,
yeah,
but,
I mean,
but
your
they
oath
never.
is everything.
Feanor.
I don't remember them maybe having treaties with orcs.
No, they never
No,
had
no,
treaties
never
with orcs,
treaties with
but that's why they would never make a promise to an orc. I think that's the
Yeah.
out character part.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
wouldn't promise an orc to spare its life.
Yeah.
You just say,
Well, if you leave no legacy.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
so they get free. They're floating down the river, and they're trying to escape. The elves start pursuing them and tell them to shut the gate. They blow the horn, and there's the river gate down below, and they shut the gate so the barrels are all trapped behind their Hawke.
Okay.
And then as they're kind of jammed up in there, that's when the orcs all attack. And so then the elves start to help
Yep.
by shooting the
And
orcs.
then Universal Studios, right?
Yeah, it ends up with Keely trying to go and get the lever to open the gate while they're doing this. He gets shot by a poisoned arrow,
In the
which
leg,
aids later
that's
plots
an
of the
important part.
movie.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay,
and
we better
then-
keep going because you got lots of stuff to do. So plot-wise, we're halfway through the movie.
Yes.
Okay, so at this point,
They are.
so
They meet the bard.
okay. Oh, there was this. Go back to Azog goes to Dol Guldur
Yes.
and sees Sauron, and because he's a servant of Sauron, and Sauron wants him to lead his armies. So then Azog kind of goes off the Tree of Thorn for a while.
And sends Bull.
Bolg. And Bolg is the new dude who's going to go try to
Yeah.
find and track down Thorin.
Which looks a lot different
Yeah.
than the original Bull. which
We're
is-
missing. We're missing a piece that's not in the book that is Radagast and
Jen.
Gandalf
Oh yes.
go to
The High
meet-
Fells.
That's later.
Meet with the council.
That's later.
No.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, the High Fells
It
is
is.
later?
Yeah.
Okay.
In terms of sequence in the movie,
Yeah.
Okay.
it is Bolg is on the chase, but you're right. You're right about the Azog part. So I shouldn't jump forward. Bolg is on the chase. Azog, and those two names are true. Those are like one is actually the son of the other one in the stories. But we better not get off on that track right now.
There's no vendetta.
Then there's
Well, yeah, there is, but it's not awoken until Goblin
Yeah.
Town is sacked. That's why the Battle of the Five Armies happens, is because in the book,
the goblins are so angry about their king being killed.
Well, I missed that. Oh, I thought it was because the dragon was gone and there was all this gold available all of a sudden.
Well, maybe that was
Yeah,
part of it
partially.
too.
After
So,
that is
we
the
have this-
interrogation.
We have this thing about Tario wanting to help the dwarves,
Yeah.
and Legolas says no, and Thranduil actually closes his realm.
But before this is the interrogation, they capture one of the orcs.
Okay, they capture the orc.
Fighting them
Yep,
with
yep,
barrels. They talk to him, and he says, "You guys are all gonna burn. The time of the orcs is come." He says, "My master Azog serves the One," which there was some speculation on the one.net as to whether the reason why that angered Thranduil so much was because it was kind of it was hinting at like because Eru is called the One.
Yeah.
And so since he's assimilated, he's saying,
Yeah.
okay, Sauron, he's the one,
Sauron
right?
is the one.
Then,
yeah.
like, once he says the one, Thranduil was like, get huge, and he's just like, "Ah!" Turns around and chops off his head.
That's a good point.
That's actually a quasi-biblical theme that you get by accident.
No. Yeah, for sure. But I love this line from Tauriel, all light is sacred to the Eldar, starlight is the most precious to the woodland elves. I thought that was an interesting point.
Yeah.
But she basically has this conversation with Legolas saying, we have to help them. We can't just stick to our own little area. We have to,
This
we
is
have
not
to
our
resist
fight.
the evil. This is our fight. Then the rapid. Okay, so Gandalf and the High Fells. So Chris, so what happens?
They discover
So they go up
a
where?
wraith. They go up into the mountains.
Now this is
Into this.
he takes it. This is at Mirkwood's borders. Gandalf leaves them, right?
Yeah.
And so what does Jackson have them do?
Radagast meets him in
High Fells.
the High Fells, and they discover that the 9 wraiths their tombs have been broken into and they're gone.
All right.
Now this was confusing, I think,
Yeah.
because what they basically are saying, isn't it, that the Witch King of Ingmar was buried by the men of
Which is
Rudar, and and we'd have to look that up, and we don't have time right now. But the High Fells are on the west side of the Misty Mountains, so they actually have Gandalf going up pretty far away. So
But
he's just changing the
so question I have. I thought the ring wraiths were living kings,
Yes.
and such that descendants,
Right.
that were given the rings, and as they continued to wear them, they became increasingly enslaved, and they
Until they're
couldn't
just
die. I don't remember
well, they
them
didn't die. They
being
were sealed.
resurrected from a barrow.
Maybe confusion with Peter Jackson.
I don't know. That's something I haven't
I
researched,
think
so I
that's
don't
a big
know.
question we need to find out.
Yeah,
for the
were
next
they
meeting.
dead first, and then he brought them back,
Which is what the movie's saying.
or were they just for
I
enslaved?
seem
I
to
forgot what
remember
happens to
them
call them.
being
Over time,
sealed.
you become more and more ethereal.
The word wraith means twist.
Right.
Yeah, so
Peter Jackson might be looking at from the standpoint, well, he's a necromancer, so where did he get these guys?
Well, this is it. He's trying to say if he's a necromancer, he's bringing things back from the dead. What did he bring back from the dead?
The
Ah,
ringwraiths.
the Nazgul.
Yes.
So
When they were talking, they find and they address the blade in
Morgul.
Rivendell.
Yeah.
He says this has been buried in the darkest dark, and there's no magic that should have been able to open that. Now I wonder
They
how.
went in and discovered that.
Yeah.
It
It
was
showed,
a miracle.
it showed a tomb with the doors.
Yeah.
That's been busted open.
Tombs cracked.
This is supposed to be what deep. Now I don't remember that part even happening in the book, so that's.
It wasn't in The Hobbit. I seem to remember something.
The Nazgul one.
well, the whole Dol thing is not in the Hobbit. That's
No,
all
but it is in.
being extrapolated from
Yeah.
elsewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because later on,
Is it just Gandalf? Okay, see you. Good luck. No, Gandalf, don't leave us.
Yeah.
Bye.
I
gotta go.
he doesn't really explain.
People don't say things to do.
He's got a timeshare condo and something.
Right.
But
Now he's got a 10-share condo in Rivendell.
yeah, right. But I think that's a pretty good. I mean, I think the Golda thing
It's
is
a
not a
good
problem.
explanation
Yeah.
of
It is.
what is going on.
Because it is. I mean, that's what's going on. Is that,
Gandalf is figuring out what's going on.
except the White Council has to actually cast them out, and I think that's what's going to happen in the third movie. The White Council has to gather. So where are we? We're at Gandalf and the High Fells.
Yeah.
He and so then, okay. So then they get to getting closer to the lake, and this is where we have a huge change by Peter Jackson. So
Yes.
Bard the Bowman is completely.
Yes.
Yes, he's
Is his name
a
Chiron?
he's a smuggler. He's kind of a Han Solo guy.
Kind of.
It looked actually a little bit like Glenn, but that was.
No.
Anyway.
No, he didn't.
All right.
So he's wearing the vest.
Yeah. No Cloud City here. So what we did was basically he said, well, I'll sneak you in for a price. So they pay Bard, and Bard sneaks them in barrels, under fish,
In barrels
Under fish.
covered with fish.
and he takes them in. They have a nice little interplay, don't they, between the master of Lake Town and Bard. Does anybody want to comment on like what, or just kind of tell what happens?
Well, it's the actor that played the master. I don't know the actor's name.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, his name. Isn't that Stephen? No, don't.
What did you think about that whole thing? Was it believable, Jay?
Was interesting.
They showed some corruption there.
Was the actor so recognizable? Kind of the disjointing thing. You were expecting the actor and has any
Bard?
stereotype? No, for the master.
No, I think the master is pretty much like, he's shown as a guy who's playing politics.
No. And they kind of have a Grima character.
Yeah.
As this guy, what is his name?
I would like to point out
Alfred.
that from Lake Town's point of view, messing with the dragon is not good.
Exactly. Which is why Jackson and his scriptwriters, because he's just the director, I mean, the others have written the script here, but he says, okay, so I'm going to make Bard actually find out that this is Thorin Oakenshield, right? This is the heir to the throne, the Dwarven Kingdom, and he totally tries to stop Thorin from going.
Right. I think that the director in the film industry has, I'm going to say, over the scriptwriter.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But
That's fine. Those are just, whatever, details. But I think the main thing is he changes Bard's character. And so the master's like, okay, well, I want an excuse to show that I'm better than Bard because all the people like Bard. So Bard is like the people's hero and the master's not. And so he says, well, since Bard is against Thorin going, I'll support Thorin because everybody
and there's
wants.
money involved.
Everybody's like, oh, wow, we'll share in the wealth. So that's what happens. Then, okay, but there's two really silly parts in the movie. One is that there's ice on the lake.
Yeah.
When they're coming into
Yeah.
Lake Town,
Awesome.
there's like ice chunks
Yes.
on the lake.
Okay.
And this is before Durin's Day, which is the first day of autumn. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
No, it's the last
That's
day of
bizarre.
autumn. It's the last day of autumn.
The last day of autumn?
The last day of autumn.
Last day of autumn. They
Somebody didn't do the research?
So December 21.
Potentially.
All right. Okay.
Well, maybe
It was that late?
Was it?
Yeah, because Durin's Day is the last day in autumn.
Well, it might be because,
First day of winter,
the Misty
last day.
Mountains.
Oh, all
It
right.
might be because the Misty Mountains is having thick snow and ice.
Yeah.
But that could be actually a factor of altitude rather than season.
Sure. Well, that's true. I mean, that's fine. But it's obviously late in the year. So then,
That's
ice in the lake,
amazing.
fish in the barrels. They get to Lake Town. Bard at the gate. There's this whole problem where he's got to get them through. He gets them to his house. It's pretty. It's very detailed way in which he tries to smuggle into his house. Gives them food. Gives them clothing. Gives them weapons, but the weapons aren't good enough. And so then
So they charge the armor.
they try to steal from the armory, but they're discovered because Keeley, who has a wounded leg, falls down the stairs with all the weapons, making a huge clatter. And then they arrest them all, and they bring them all to the master's house. But this is when the master's like, where Thorin says, "I'm for do."
Oh no.
Kill it.
No.
Just a minute. You press the
We have
desktop.
lost
key.
internet.
That's still there. Okay.
And then, so they're in the square. The master says, "Welcome," and everybody cheers. But Bard's like, "No, this is not good." So Thorin and Bard are kind of at each other. And then, so Thorin actually makes a promise. This is very interesting. He makes a promise. He says, "I promise you that if you help us, then everyone will get a share of the treasure in the the mountain."
That's how
It is, but it plays in well to the fact that later on he is very greedy and he doesn't want to share any of it. Yeah. So anyway, do you want to carry on, Alice, with what happened?
Which one is it?
Hello.
No, confirmed. I don't know.
Armory square.
There we go.
Thorin.
Decipher
Yeah,
his
Thorin
notes.
saw it.
And then I don't know.
Oh yes. So at this point, Keeley is greatly affected by the poison in his leg.
Take that box down.
Um,
The box, yeah, it's blocking our face.
he's greatly affected by the poison. He's getting really sick. Thorin says you have to stay in Lake Town, which is great segue away from the book. So Keely stays put. Feely, as his good brother, says, I will stay with him. And Boffer is also left behind because he was sleeping late, which didn't really make sense for those two. So it's him and Keely and Feely, and who else stayed behind? One more.
So Boffer, Owen, and Keely all stayed behind.
Yes.
That was really weird.
I don't remember.
Oh no.
No, they all went.
Yeah.
I didn't even remember the poison thing.
Oh no, it's not. But
That's not in the book.
I was like, what's the point about that plot invention? Why does that serve? Is it because then Toriel can come and rescue him?
I think it's
And save his
some
life?
people. Well, saving his life.
'Cause
But
otherwise
also
they'd be off the
Tariel
mountain.
is now like connected to them more, and like, oh wow, I can help them. We should help them and not stay in our own little kingdom.
So here's the question. I mean, with that, there's a cascade effect if you bring in this character, right, and try to bridge the gap between dwarves and elves, because there's this feeling where dwarves and elves are enemies somewhat, and you want to try to show by the end of the movie that it's possible for them to get along, right? Because Legolas and Gimli do later.
Right.
So, grudgingly.
Oh, from the books of a character, or is it more as a strong dislike? Or
A strong dislike. Well,
or
right. Suspicion.
No, discrimination.
Yeah. Racism?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sense of the word.
Oh.
Yes. Okay. So, but here's the question. I mean, I don't know. Does Jackson understand? I mean, it's one thing to say, hey, let's have a new character who's an elf. I mean, does anybody really have a problem with that?
No.
You've got to have lots more actors and characters. But I think when you do that and you put this in, you say, well, let's make her kind of a bridge that of understanding. Then it actually affects. I think it's significant, but I don't know what anybody else thinks. I think all the dwarves should be at Lonely Mountain, and they're not.
I think it's their only way to stretch the book.
This question, now, is this introducing this new character? Is this going to tie in?
It's not cynical at all.
Sneaks out after Thorin gets greedy.
I don't know.
Bilbo sneaks out
Out of the mountain?
Out of the mountain and has the dialogue.
That's a good
Different
question.
groups.
Because in the book, it's with the king, it's with the elf king Thranduil and with Bard.
Yeah,
But do you
yeah,
think
because
it might
that's
be?
because the elf army men.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting how they do that.
You think that maybe the new
Maybe
character?
that'll be just the way that they help the dialogue along. Maybe they won't have Bilbo come out to do the dialogue. Maybe that she'll be.
Well,
I don't know.
Legolas comes after Toriel.
Yeah.
So at one point, there's elves, orcs, and dwarves all in Lake Town.
Yes, that was.
Because
that
you
was
have
the most-
Orcs and Lake
Yes,
Town.
orcs in Lake Town.
Yes.
In the name of toleration, we have to have as much fucking.
And it's because these elves the dwarves get left behind,
Yep.
right, in order to have the elf maid come and
Like the orcs are actually on Lake Town, or
they're on top of the roofs of the
No.
There's a small group
They're
pursuing
trying to
Thorin.
trace down Thorin, and then
They
they
find out
break
that he's not
into
there.
Boy,
Bard's.
what a lousy city
They-
guard. Bard's not doing his job
I know.
training his men.
Well, Bard was put in prison.
Bard's in
Was put in
prison.
prison.
Yeah, well, but I
because
mean,
they
his
got-
training leaves something to be.
Oh, yeah.
You said he's just a barge captain. He wasn't an actual
We
guard.
don't check the roads. I mean,
Yeah, right.
that would require extra pay.
So Bolg is after
Against union
Thorin.
rules, huh?
Breaks
It's a small group
into,
of orcs.
sees the dwarves.
Breaks into Bard's house.
Yes, because Buffer goes to get
There's some kind of.
King's
Toriel. Yeah, Toriel says we need some.
No, there's
No.
a women actually.
Bard. Bard says we need king's foil. No, one of the dwarves does. Yes.
Hawke, your battery's running low, 10%.
Oh, it's unplugged.
One of the dwarves originally, before they left, had said we need king's foil. This sparked an idea in Buffer's head. I will go get it. Finds some. The orcs see him, follow him to Bard's house. They break into the house. At which point, Tariel and Legolas start killing stuff.
Meanwhile, quick segue. So what's happening with just briefly with Dol Guldur, right? So in the movie, Gandalf decides to challenge Dol Guldur and try to flesh out the eagle on his own, but he sends
Radagast.
Radagast
to Galadriel.
to go get a message to Galadriel to help. And this is the confrontation between Sauron and Gandalf, where he actually discovers it is Sauron.
So
Before this point, he doesn't really know that, does he?
Peter Jackson has turned Radagast and Starry into a messenger.
Yeah.
Postman.
Yeah, Postman kind of.
Congratulations, you're promoted to Postman.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you know what is interesting is I thought this was well done. Did anybody else like this? They showed this darkness, kind of bodiless darkness, which was the necromancer, and then it forms into the eye. But then the red, the slit, the pupil, you know, that's in the Lord of the Rings.
It's shaped like a man's
It's
body.
shaped like a man's body, and then it becomes more clear.
Yeah.
It is the image of Sauron as he used to be when the when the ring was
like
cut
you
from
can
his
see
finger. His
helm
old
that he had.
crown.
Right.
So it's kind of it's an
And-
interesting kind of development of how he's gathering more and more of his shape. Go ahead.
The only problem I would have with that is the armor that Peter Jackson put Sauron in the historical end of the Second Age was inaccurate because the whole point of that incarnation for Sauron was that he was fair to look upon for men.
Except he had
Yeah,
lost
his
that
fair
ability
form, Anatar, the Lord of Gifts, was destroyed with the
when
fall of
Numenor.
Numenor.
Right. So the armor
He was
wasn't
just a
really
spirit
a
after
creation.
that.
It wasn't. The whole thing was that he was appealing to men.
Except he was appealing to men with Numenor corrupting the king, etc., etc. Numenor falls.
Yeah.
He loses the ability to look appealing. And
Right. He can only have
a good
his
guy.
dark form after
Exactly.
that. But he can take on physical form, but it takes a long time for him to reassemble
Yeah.
that.
So it's only his ugly self is
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't deceive.
because the scene where Isildur cuts the ring off Sauron's finger actually comes after Numenor falling.
Well, that was the final thing of a full physical form
Right.
for Sauron. He couldn't, without the ring, he couldn't fully.
It's interesting. The One Ring is paralleling some of our conversation, but they're not listening. But they're discussing some of the same topics, even though they're not listening.
Okay.
Idril says hi.
Okay, so here is
Idril says
So-
hi.
back to
Ciao. Chat.
back to so back to Lake Town.
Just
So
Angel.
What?
Just Angel.
Idril.
Angel.
IDRIL.
Idril.
Oh,
Yeah.
Angel.
Idril.
IDRIL.
Some nameless female.
It's
Nameless.
nameless, like only the Princess
She-
of Gondolin.
Yeah, like
Last time I kept calling
say-
Gondolin.
towards.
So guys, let's wrap it up with
Right.
the Thorin and company, slightly reduced, get to, and it's very quick, isn't it? It's like
Yeah.
they get to the mountain in like no
Like, we're
time.
across the lake. Woo! We're
Yeah.
They
there.
found their teleport.
Yeah, apparently, and they get to the mountain.
Stop.
They look for the way up. They find the secret, where the secret door should be. And this was an interesting scene where they're like trying to battle it down. Like,
Yeah.
where's the keyhole? We can't.
Because the sun sets, right?
The sun's setting on that day, and they think it's the last light during the day. And
But it's-
actually,
Isn't
Yeah, it's
Lake
the moon.
Town pretty close to along the mountain?
It's on the
it's
bottom
several
side of
days
the lake.
away. It takes like a week to get there. Yeah, that's okay. It's no big deal anyway. But they make it look like the dwarves are trying to bash their way through the door, and he changes it to moonlight.
Yeah.
The moonlight shows the keyhole.
And Bilbo says, "Hey, wait."
That's not
Wait
the
for
book.
the knock of the thrush when the setting sun shines upon the keyhole.
Yeah.
And it's
But
like
they
a
change that
rising moon.
Knocking of the thrush.
They change it to the last light of Durin's day, which and then
And more literal.
they think we've lost hope because now the sun has set. They haven't been able to see the key,
Bilbo
and so
stays
then
there.
Bill was like, "Don't give up, guys."
Yeah.
And then they all leave and they're all going away, and
And then
Bill
he
was
hears the thrush knock.
like, "Hey everybody, it's okay."
Maybe it's Peter Jackson.
The monkey.
Came out that with the moon rings on the map.
I think that's, but why? You know, it's like why not
And
the
the
sunset?
moon showing the way into Moria.
Because I'm not really
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
I don't know if Peter
So lots
Jackson
of-
has actually read the book.
Maybe he has a moon tattoo.
He has. Well, like I think he's like with your interesting quote with Tariel about the stars, like how he's kind of separating it like moon, dwarves, they use all this stuff for their secret
Right.
things, their doors, their maps, their writing, and then
Yeah.
the stars, elves, which is, you know.
But the sun is also, you know, I mean, that's the antithesis of the darkness. So,
Yeah.
But maybe, I don't know.
And
Who knows
whatever,
what reasons they
sidetrack.
have.
Anyway.
They get into the tunnel. So Bill was in the tunnel. And
They have a conversation.
He goes down, and Smaug sees him. He
doesn't have to
puts on his ring at first, right?
Yeah.
And then he takes it off.
Why?
And the dragon
Why
sees
does he
it.
take
Why
the
does he
ring
take it off?
When he's going into a dragon's lair. Explain that one
Yeah.
to me.
He was volunteering to be a sacrifice.
I'm like, what person in their right mind,
Maybe it's because
especially a hobbit mind.
Okay, not only that, this is my second silly scene of the movie.
Okay.
First one was the floating ice, but maybe that's believable if it was the end of autumn, right?
Mara Brightwave's back to you.
The second,
Says she's so jealous you were there and I'm not.
No.
the second year. Get sure everybody gets in here. There we go. The
Sort of shy.
yeah.
Occasionally have to drink.
Sorry. Yep. Everybody's still
And
here.
then Chris and I lean back some.
No, I might be seeing
This one sees everybody but me.
Right, that's why I'm trying to.
Oh, sorry,
That's
sorry.
right.
Okay, there's.
Okay, let me control the camera here.
No, I'm a seventh.
I'm the director.
Computer's mine.
There.
Second silly scene is that when Bilbo, on his own, enters down into the treasure chamber, which is very nicely,
Oh yeah.
depicted. Obviously, it's great.
Huge.
He actually knocks on the wall and says, "Hello,"
Yes.
and then he knocks again. Anyone here?
Yeah.
Mr. Dragon.
He knocks.
He knocks on the wall.
I think it's just
What?
too much gullibility, but
I'm like, what is going on here? You're a burglar. You're supposed to go down and see if the dragon's here.
hello.
They're trying to
The
show that
dragon?
he's just kind of being naive or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty pathetic.
Wow.
So
the
then,
writer was consuming mushrooms at that point. Huh?
yes, obviously,
So,
Radagast slipped in the field.
so are you saying Pippin took over the writing?
So the gold was pretty awesome. I think I have to say that
Yes.
the treasure. It's worth seeing the movie just simply for the treasure chamber of Thror.
Yeah.
It was awesome, and the dragon sleeping underneath it. And at one point, he's like, you see him going across the dragon.
Yeah.
You want to touch on this?
You go across all the gold, and it's ching, 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 and then he picks up a cup, and
All the gold falls
all
away.
the gold falls down, and he sees the dragon's closed eye,
He's like,
and he
"Oh, crap."
thinks he's okay,
Springtime.
but then
Yes.
it opens.
Of course.
Yes.
Dun, dun, dun.
With
And he
Wolverine,
sees-
he's like already
But the
So-
conversation
What was
with
that,
the
Dragon?
dragon was pretty
He doesn't even
active.
put on the ring until like out of sight.
Which is kind of the opposite of.
He put it on when he's going down the tunnel.
Yeah.
Actually, he put
Yeah.
it on and never took it off. Like it's smart.
Yeah.
I do not remember why he took it off.
Maybe it's just because they don't want the audience constantly seeing blurry image and like, oh, well, no one wants to see this.
Well,
That could be
if
it.
they're CGI in it, that's expensive.
Well, so there's the last half hour of the movie is that Smaug not only sees Bilbo, but he says, I know, after there's this nice little sequence of I'm the barrel rider, he doesn't say, oh, I know, you must be from Lake Town, oh, I'll go get you.
Barrel rider.
He's like, I know why you're here. Thor and Oakenshield sent you. I can smell dwarf on you. Yes!
Yes.
It was all in
And
Thorin's
you are
blood.
after
He
the
smells it.
Arkenstone.
He says, yeah.
Not after the whole
come
treasure,
on.
but you're after the Arkenstone.
What?
Which there's this whole,
Nobody wants the Arkansas.
it's the dragon and Bilbo's, out of the corner of his eye looking
Yes.
at the Arkenstone.
Sneaking towards
The
it.
Arkenstone slides down the pile of gold, and he goes
It's all
after
up
And
there.
it.
Smaug says, I almost feel like I should let you have it.
Just to make him. What is it?
Just to
He wants-
corrupt Thorin and make
Yes.
him mad and crazy.
The Arkenstone doesn't, well, in the book at least, in the original story, it doesn't do anything. It's just pretty.
Yeah.
Well, the argument we ran this with the One Ring is that when a dragon's had a hoard and such, it imbues it with the greed, and so they're susceptible to dragon lust, treasure lust. So,
Mhm.
and that's a thing that's come up in a number of things.
Yeah.
So they're running around. The last half hour is the dwarves all running around with Bilbo, trying to evade Smaug as he's chasing them around.
That's not because I've been
Smaug.
killed.
So then they
And
realize
Smaug is British.
I can
and
almost
has a
see that.
British voice.
Okay.
I can almost see a Benny Hill scene.
Okay. So Smaug.
Dog, dog, dog.
So
Yeah, they're running around like through doors, opening.
After his start going slap, 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 slap. As he does that to the poor old guy.
Yeah. So then they run around, right? And then they get to the foundry, which was a pretty awesome scene.
Yeah.
I have to say. And so they stoke. They're like, "We have no fire hot enough to start these forges again."
And Thor's like,
Thor's
oh
like,
yes, we
"Oh,
do.
yes, we do." And then he kind of taunts.
He calls him a
Smaug.
slug.
You were like,
What's
"You
stupid?
fat
He gets
busy."
Smaug to start the.
So he basically hides behind this big kind of
Pillars.
iron pillars
And
that
Smaug like,
Smaug can't get through. And he's like, basically taunting him, and Smaug blasts fire, and it kindles the forges.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
And then they start up, and then from this they're able to actually heat up this molten gold,
Yeah.
and then they try to actually bury Smaug in the molten gold.
Because they pour it into this mold of a dwarvish statue, and then
I think-
he's taunting him, and then the statue falls apart, and the gold like.
It's a dwarf.
I think Peter Jackson's played too much Dungeons and Dragons. This is the type of stuff I do. Like, oh, let's find another way to solve this. Let's forget like venturing. Let's go use eagles and drop the ring in them.
Yeah.
Forget the whole adventure. Oh,
How
let's
it
not let
should have
Smaug
been.
go. Let's just take him out.
But then the dragon gets up from
Uh.
the pool of gold.
And of course he
and
doesn't.
all.
And he's like,
And he's like, oh, refreshing.
I'll show you, and goes and flies.
he decides,
out. How does a dragon fly covered in gold?
He was still covered in gold.
It was the molten gold that was on him.
Yeah.
It didn't
Dry
shake
quickly.
off of him.
Yes,
It was
he
the-
epically flies into the air
it
and
was the
shakes it
dry
off.
quick
It's like,
gold.
Huh.
yeah.
Wow. But to punish them, he goes and attacks Lake Town.
Yes, he
Ooh
says.
boy, he showed the
Yeah,
dwarves,
no,
didn't he?
because then he says to Bilbo, he says, "Hey, you're a barrel rider," which should have happened before. But that's okay.
Uh-huh.
Then he says, "Lake Town," and Bilbo's like, "No, don't go there. They're innocent." He's like, "Oh, will you care for them?"
You're in league. I know, he says. As he's panting for chasing the dwarves. You're in league with those legmen. I'll show them.
Yes.
And then he's like, no,
Who
don't
was
do that to
panting?
them.
Smaug.
Smaug was
Yes, he was
panting.
slightly panting. He was a little bit crazed with his eyes. But
Okay.
One of the
We should
dwarves wouldn't
zoom
really
up on
care.
that.
Bilbo might be concerned, but
Yeah, no, I'm like, oh boy, that hurts
Well,
the
also-
dwarves.
also
he thinks
bringing
Bilbo's
into
a
the
lake
plot-
man, so he's like,
Yeah, well, okay, but
Also bringing into the plot, this Keeley and some of the other dwarves are there, so the dwarves would matter. I mean, like they would care if Lake Town was
that's why they need the
torched
subplot where people are
because
staying
the
in
dwarves are there.
ah,
Oh,
good point.
purpose is revealed.
Now the mind of Peter Jackson.
And so
Made up
Smaug flies out,
Yes.
and that's the
Fine.
end.
Leaving a trail.
Yeah, they like,
And Bilbo
Yeah, that's the
says,
end.
okay.
Yeah.
"What have we done?" And then it goes
What
black
have we
screen.
done?
All right. Dun, dun,
We've
dun.
gotten rid of those pesky lakemen. That's what we've done.
That'll teach him.
Fewer people to share the treasure with. That's
All
pretty
right,
much it.
so we're gonna still have to deal with the battle of now it's the actual Desolation of Smaug, the Battle of Smaug.
Oh, they did mention the
Smaug.
black arrow. They
Yes.
are using the black arrow.
Yes, they
Okay,
are.
all right.
Bard pulls it down.
But he
from
probably
his-
won't give his
And-
little speech. about
And
it.
Bilbo did
No.
see
Well, maybe.
Bilbo did see the chink in the armor.
Yeah.
did.
And
So
relay
it's-
that,
He did.
relay that to the Thrush.
No, he's not.
No,
But I bet
No.
he'll do that at the
Hopefully he
beginning
will.
of the next
Okay,
movie.
when
Yeah.
he sees the battle.
he's relating it.
As
this
he interacted with the Thrush. Did the Thrush knock?
Yes, the first
The
knock.
Thrush knocked.
Okay. Did he interact
No,
with it at
did
all?
not speak. Well, in the books, oh yes, you're right.
He did not.
He did not.
Interesting.
He just saw it and said, "Hey guys."
Actually, in the book, he tells the thrush after Smaug is.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
Well,
so
now-
that should be happening
Oh, crap.
in the beginning
Crash.
of the next.
yeah.
Okay. And then,
Message. Yeah.
so Battle of Smaug, whatever happens there
Right,
happens.
right.
Yeah.
When we surprise that the elves show up again for some strange reason.
Yep. Oh yeah. No holds barred now. I mean, it's.
Oh,
So then Smaug,
Theoretically, we
in
could see
theory,
a
goes
full-
down into the lake.
you can see a full. Theoretically, you can see a full Dwarven army in
Who knows?
Oh, we
Goes
are.
into the lake.
We are going to.
And then
Yeah,
after
I-
that,
There's the
then
gathering
we
storm.
gathering around the base. And then you
Five
first get the men, then the elves, then
Saying they want a piece of the treasure.
the
Thorn saying
dwarves,
no.
right? And the dwarves are coming.
Bilbo
And then
push
the
the
goblins and
arrows.
orcs are coming.
Well,
And then it's
the elves
looking
have
really
to-
grim as they unite together. And then the eagles come to save the day. Okay.
They did show. They did kind of. hint
Assuming
at
any
this.
of that happens like the book.
Yeah. Well, they did hint at Thorin already turning now. Because this whole thing
Yeah.
about, are you like your grandfather?
Has Thorin
No, I'm
already
not like
sent
your
word out to his kin to...
No, not yet.
Mm.
Because they're not there yet.
They haven't met Rowan.
They've
Which
only
I don't
just
know.
escaped.
Well, I think that happened after, because there was a while after Smaug.
But he
went
asks
down.
Bilbo as soon as he sees Bilbo, because the dwarves actually come down the tunnel. Bilbo doesn't go back up.
No. Yeah, they
What's the
come.
sword do?
They're
The
like,
dwarves
we
come down
should
and
go and
puts the
help
sword
him.
and says,
Have
he
you
says,
found the Ark
he says,
Stone?
did you find the Ark Stone? And Bilbo's like, and Thor's like, where is it?
But he didn't.
Which I
But see, in the book, he didn't even know. That was like Thorin kept that kind of secret
Well,
hush hush
he mentioned it,
not until later though.
and
Yeah.
They
Bilbo,
can't find it.
Bilbo's
Bilbo
like,
finds
well, they did say I could have
Right,
burgle something. and
right.
he did.
After they're doing the loop,
Yeah,
Which I
Bilbo
think.
finds it.
That's part of why.
But he doesn't.
gets
But
so
Thorin
mad.
doesn't say what it is at first until he's
Right.
frustrated
Yeah.
trying to find it.
Totally.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
That's when
And then
Thorin
Bilbo's
gets
like,
mad.
oh.
I think
crap,
they might use
that's
that in
right.
the
Yeah.
third movie.
Inherit one of the rings given to the book.
You would have, except that it was taken by Sauron when Sauron captured his father Thrain, and
I think- They're gonna use the whole Bilbo like.
I
And not saying
imagine that Bilbo actually will produce the Arkan Stone.
Yeah, like. I
And
think
he
they're
picks it up
gonna
and
use
he's
that.
Not, in the book, it's not. He's just like, oh, this is sweet. I'm gonna put it in my pocket.
Yeah.
And then it's what, a month or something like that in time before he even puts it together. It's like, oh, I bet you that's what he's looking for.
Yeah,
Right?
and
Isn't that
I
how
think
it
they're
goes?
gonna use
Right,
that in the
And
third
then
movie.
he's like,
Because
well,
Thorin's keeping it secret. He doesn't
Yeah.
want anybody to know.
Exactly.
Just like he didn't want to tell the Elf King what he was up to. He didn't want anybody getting in it.
So I think we're
All right.
going to have to read letters 73, 74, 75 next time that we meet in December.
Okay. Because we're getting near the end here.
We're getting near the end. So, oh, sorry, this is December. In 2014, January, we'll meet again.
In January. Yep.
We're not meeting for a
Second-
year.
Second
Not maybe until
Saturday.
next year.
Second Saturday of January, we'll be here again. So stay tuned to tolkienscholars.org.
That's where all the updates will be.
That's all the updates. So you'll find out when we're next meeting. If
And
you have
bear
any,
with us if our broadcasts start a little late. Google keeps changing their tech, so sometimes we start a little late, but just
Right.
keep checking.
do we have any last comments or questions from anyone on?
Yeah, that's
Listening in
tuned in.
Facebook
There's a few
or-
people tuned in. Let me check the chat rooms.
So if you have any
So-
questions or comments, please share them with us now before we can end our broadcast. Just want to take this moment to thank the owners of the Rocket Bakery here on North Spokane for letting us use their side room.
Yeah,
And,
and this worked out fairly nicely.
if you get a chance, come on down and
It's on Hastings near Meade High School.
Very good
Spokane. Give it a minute for people
Sure.
to say things.
So anyway, last so maybe
This is our best. This is our best physical audience.
Oh, yeah.
You know, not counting the convention.
yeah. This is great.
It's 7 people. That's awesome. Thank you so much for everybody who actually made it. Thank you. The 7.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
you go. Does anybody have any? Maybe you want to go around and just each person say like one thing they're hoping is done well in the third movie.
Well, I didn't see the second one.
Yeah, he
to
hasn't seen
catch
it yet.
myself up before I was able to put on that. But I'm hoping. I'm trying to think of how to word it. I'm hoping. I'd like to see the crumbled city in the third one, because that's part of the story. They spend all this time exploring, looking along the old parts, and they're like, this is where the men used to live, close to our mountain. This is where we did our trading. Up
Yeah.
here is our, yeah.
It shows you a little bit.
Because I mean, they put in the book though, they explore it. You know, they talk all about the towers and this, and you know, I'm hoping that we can see some of that. Because I mean, I have a way to picture it in my head. But
Well,
They did have a flashback to Mirian, Lord of Dale, with
That
the
was
whole
very
Black
nice.
Arrow plot, the sub thingy. They showed how there used to be these black arrows, and they're the only thing that can pierce Smaug's hide, and that's how they're explaining the chink in Smaug's
yeah,
hide, as that there's
One of the arrows.
that one of the arrows knocked the
Ah.
scale off, thus leaving room later in the third movie
There's
for
only one
Bard
left.
to.
Yeah, Tolkien never
Yeah.
went into that.
but I think it's a believable kind of
Yeah.
explanation.
I always
They're
figured
like a
it was
double
kind of like
crossbow.
he,
It's pretty powerful.
I always figured he kind of got mocky, like old age and skills from
Yeah,
that.
could be.
he
So
said he's such a young Drake when he took that.
yeah, it
Yes.
was. It's true. This is like how many hundreds of years in between? 200-300.
Between when they lost it.
Mm-hmm.
You also have to remember in the time when the time he took it, Thorin was in minimalist mode,
Yeah.
so he's receiving less energy consuming.
True. They did make a connection there, didn't they, about where the dragon actually mentions the power of evil growing and some sense in which he
And that it's connected to the ring
Connected
that
to the
Bilbo is
he actually knows about the ring, yeah.
So other than people asking if this will be available later as a recording, yes. Right now it's on the youtube.com/Middle-earth Radio channel because the Tolkien one wasn't working right because of Google Plus changing things. So this will be immediately archived on Middle-earth Radio under youtube.com, but I will move it later to youtube.com/TolkienMoot, and of course on the Tolkien Scholars, that's plural, S at the end, .org website. So you'll be able to get the rest of the broadcast, because a lot of people didn't tune in until the end. But a number of people have said they felt similarly about some of the things that were expressed and thanked us for sharing this. And I thank all of you for showing up here physically, and those of you who did make it online, and we appreciate your support. And hope everybody has a great rest of the year. Happy holidays, Happy New Year, and we will see all of you next year in January. Wherever you may be well. Namaste.